Why are incomplete messages costly to organization? कि incomplete messages जो होते हैं वो क्यों costly होते हैं organization के लिए? They lead to confusion, delays and loss of goodwills or sales. कि sales और goodwills जो है वो नुकसान पहुंचता है उसको, इससे confusion और delays वगैरह पैदा होते हैं. Which stage includes determining your purpose and considering your readers? Planning stage. What is the first step in planning a written business message? Choose the appropriate content. What is the final step in the revision process? Proofreading. What does you attitude mean in business communication? Focusing on the reader's point of view. Which of the following is the best definition of communication? Communication is a process of exchanging messages to share meanings. Which one is a form of non-verbal communication? Gesture. In the communication process, noise refers to anything that interferes with the message. The 7 C's of effective communication include all except complexity. Which channel is most appropriate for sending a formal business proposal? Written channel. When people ask you for information and you can't honor the request, you may answer with both direct and indirect approach. In a written disappointing newsletter, all the following points are important except offering an apology for the decision. Which of the following is not a part of the writing plan of a reservation letter? A section describing the quality of the room you booked in the other hotel. रिजर्वेशन लेटर के तहरीरी प्लान में क्या शामिल नहीं होता? ये शामिल नहीं होता कि दूसरे होटल की कमरे की तफसील उसमें शामिल नहीं की जाती. The letters written to book some place like room, hall, etc. are called reservation letters. Which of the following is not suggested for an appropriate ending of business writing? रिक्वेस्ट लेटर के आखिर में क्या नहीं होना चाहिए? Keep the ending paragraph as long as circumstances allows. तवील इख्तितामी पैराग्राफ नहीं होना चाहिए. In a direct request letter, request can be presented in first sentence. Which of the following is not the stage of effective business writing? Body composition stage. While preparing for effective business writing, drafting stage doesn't involve editing. Which of the following is not a result of incomplete message? Gaining the good name. The vocabulary of informal writing is less difficult. Which one of the following is not a fallacy about a resume? The objective of a resume is to kindle the employer interest and generate an interview. रिज्यूमे से मुतालिक कौन सी बात जो है वो गलत है? वो ये है कि रिज्यूमे का मकसद इंटरव्यू की राह हमवार करना है. The suggested plan for a sales letter includes all the following except an opening that could detract the reader's attention. ऐसा आगाज जो तवज्जो हटाए ये सेल्स लेटर के प्लान में शामिल नहीं होता. Scientists include global warming using temperature data. Which form of reasoning? दर्जे हरारत के अदाद शुमार से नतीजा खुश करना जो है वो इंडक्टिव रीजनिंग कहलाता है. Which of the following methods cannot be used to capture attention in a persuasive message opening? Persuasive message के आगाज में क्या नहीं करना चाहिए? Use of conjunction का इस्तेमाल. Which of the following must not be adopted in preparing disappointing news messages? मायूस कुन पैगाम में क्या नहीं अपनाना चाहिए? यूज नेगेटिव वर्ड्स और फ्रेजेस, मनफी अल्फाज का इस्तेमाल. Which statement would be the best close for an adjustment letter? Your business is appreciated. The direct plan can be used for claims. BC is an abbreviation of which of the following? Blind copy. Which method of outlining presents specific information first, then conclusion is direct method. Which of the following information is true for bar charts, simple column charts, and multi-column charts that can be used to illustrate varied values? कि ये जो है different values को illustrate कर सकते हैं. Which one of the following is not a common reason for disruptive behavior? Disruptive behavior की आम वजह कौन सी नहीं होती है? वो है reappearance of the presenter. Presenter का दोबारा से आना जो है वो disruptive behavior नहीं होता. Hands on hips and pounding fist is interpreted as dictatorial or arrogant. हाथ कमर पे और मुठ्ठियाँ बंद होना क्या जाहिर करता है? ये आमराना रवैया जाहिर करता है. When does presentation begin? Presentation कब शुरू होती है? The moment you are in view of your listeners, जब आप सामने के सामने होते हैं. The skill of speaking is distinct syllable is called articulation. Articulation क्या है? वाज़ेह अल्फाज में बोलने की सलाहियत articulation कहलाती है. Which of the following is a method of arranging info by dividing into parts? मालूमात को हिस्सों में तकसीम करने का क्या तरीका है? टॉपिकल पैटर्न होता है वो. इफ़ अ कोटेशन इज लॉन्ग एट द इंट्रो ऑफ स्पीच, यू शुड पैराफ्रेज द कोटेशन टू अवॉइड कंफ्यूजन एंड और बोर्डम. ठीक है कि जो है लंबी कोटेशन हो तो क्या करें, उसे पैराफ्रेज करते हैं. विच इज़ रिलेटेड टू इन्वायरमेंटल कम्युनिकेशन बैरियर. फिजिकल बैरियर जो होते हैं वो इन्वायरमेंटल कम्युनिकेशन बैरियर से रिलेट करते हैं. विच बैरियर आर हार्डेस्ट टू आइडेंटिफाई एंड रिड्यूस. कौन से बैरियर्स आइडेंटिफाई करना या कम करना जो है वो मुश्किल होता है? वो है लिसनर बैरियर्स. ठीक है, सुनने वाले के जो बैरियर्स होते हैं. द सेंडर एनालाइज द रिसीवर्स नॉलेज सो दैट ही और शी कुड compose the message at the proper level. Communication breakdown means we have been ineffective in communication. Communication breakdown का क्या मतलब है? कि हम मौसम अंदाज में बातचीत ना कर सकें. Farhan talking to his friend on a phone is interpersonal communication. Farhan जो अपने दोस्त से फोन पे बात कर रहा है तो ये interpersonal communication है. The person who attached meaning to a message is receiver. What is involved in the communication process? Idea, encoding, channel, decoding, feedback. ये सब जो है communication process में involve होते हैं. Understanding is the stage at which you learn what the speaker means. Conflicting information develops mental turbulence, which involves grasping what the speaker means from their point of view. Listening. Self-confident individuals usually stand more erect than those who lack confidence. Interpersonal communication between known individuals is defined as developmental view. Which of the following is not a specific organizational pattern? Reductive. Situational context of interpersonal communication refers to it deals with the physical where you are communicating. The word communication is derived from Latin word communico, meaning to share. Hardest barrier to identify and eliminate is listener barrier. Thesis statement is a core idea or bottom line. Full attention to spoken material is called listening. Frequent eye contact show liking. Which statement has biased language? Jews generally make good business people. Okay. Poor retention by sender or receiver leads to misunderstanding. Which is not the feedback categories? Noise. Articulate speech is characterized by correct pronunciation and clear enunciation. Poor retention leads to misunderstanding. Best pattern for problem or solution method is logical pattern. Immediately during presentation comes from making eye contact. Method of arranging info by parts are topical method. All are levels of communication except frame communication. Frame communication जो है वो communication का कोई level नहीं है. Understanding is the stage where you learn what the speaker means. First step to overcome communication barrier is to recognize the most common barriers and understand their negative impact. When subordinates report problems to superiors, it's called upward communication. Age, gender, education, and status fall into demographics. Jumps to conclusion. This is an example of listener barrier. Mediated communication occurs through TV, radio, and wall talking. It is always easier to communicate at the peer level. A presenter can prepare effective responses by which of the following anticipating. Which one of the following is a planned and rehearsed speech that uses different words during rehearsals? Extemporaneous speech. All of the following are correct about magazines except articles in magazine usually include bibliographies. Dash can also seriously impede the transmission of ideas, prejudice. Which of the following involves grasping what the speaker means by seeing the ideas and information from his or her point listening? When using a story, the presenter should tell the story first and then show how to illustrate the thesis. Effective internal communication helps to increase the job satisfaction and productivity. Which one of the following is an interpersonal need to exercise leadership and prove one's abilities? Control. Which of the following processes is the automatic psychological process of receiving oral stimuli? Is hearing. In USA, maintaining eye contact while talking with elders shows confidence. In Pakistan, it shows disrespect. What does the example depict? The interpretation of body language is not universal. कि यूएस में आई कांटेक्ट आप करके रखें तो ये आपका कॉन्फिडेंस बताता है, लेकिन अगर पाकिस्तान में आप आई कांटेक्ट मेंटेन करें तो ये जो है डिसरिस्पेक्ट में काउंट होता है. तो इसका मतलब क्या है कि बॉडी लैंग्वेज जो है वो यूनिवर्सल नहीं होती, हर जगह के हर माहौल के हर वैल्यूज़ के हिसाब से चेंज होती है. In verbal communication, one's physical appearance affects the status. Which of the following is not the type of electronic periodical indexes, journals? Which of the following are not the types of periodical note cards? Which of the following is usually related to environmental factors that affect communication, physical barriers? How many levels can communication be divided in? 5. What do the clothes we wear communicate? Status. Which one of the following pattern is especially effective if the audience already knows that the problem exists? Problem solution order. Which type of communication it would be when co-workers decide to meet to deal with the problem? Horizontal type of communication. When using visuals in a presentation, which of the following should be avoided? Talking to the visuals. Business associates can be a helpful source for identifying probable questions and objections. When centering on the audience, you start by finding dash that enables you to identify with them. Common traits. Which of the following method is generally preferred when presenting positive or good news information? Direct method. All of the following are the elements of communication process except creativity. Types of media used to direct information upward are reports, interphores, memos, and supervisor subordinates conference. Which would be the least helpful source when conducting audience research? News releases highlighting the organization to whom you will be speaking. Which arrangement is a modification of conventional classroom seating? U formation. Which type of speaking relies on speaking notes? Extemporaneous. A good rule to recall when using statistics is rounding and using a few key statistics is generally most effective. How many purposes your introduction should have? 4. Which of the following refers to the degree of highness or lowness of a sound? Pitch. Which pattern is not a specific organizational pattern? Deductive. Which of the following is the skill of speaking in distinct syllables? Articulation. All of the following are the purposes of introduction except avoid the audience. Which of the following seating is the least comfortable for an audience, especially for presentation that lasts longer than an hour? Conventional classroom style. A good rule to recall when using statistics is rounding and using a few key statistics is generally most effective. All of the following are the common reasons for disruptive behavior except one: reappearance of the presenter. When considering objects or models as visual aids, the presenter should consider which of the following points. There are situations in which the object being discussed or a realistic model makes the best support. Which one of the following refers to the seating arrangement in which people in the audience are seated in rows and columns without tables? Theatre style arrangement. Which of the following pattern is most appropriate when you use the problem solution method? Logical pattern. Which one of the following seating is most common for proactive presentation delivered to the large audience? Conventional theater style. A presenter can prepare effective responsive to questions by following all of the given steps except one, that is rehearsing. Which is not the type of comments from an audience? Arbitrate. Which one of the following is a method of arranging information by dividing it into parts? Topical pattern. When using visual in a presentation, which of the following should be avoided? Talking to the visuals. A speech designed to change or reinforce the audience's beliefs or actions. This is an example of persuasive speech. Which of the following refers to the degree of highness or lowness of a sound is a pitch? All of the following are considered as the core value of correctness except loudness. Which of the following is not suggested for an appropriate ending of business writing? Keep the ending paragraph as long as circumstances allow.